This is Secret America with your hosts, Jack Danger and James Clary.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Jack Danger along with James Clary. There has been some news, James, that I think, to me, it kind of flips everything on its head. It doesn't give the government any more excuses, and it's rather shocking. And I'm talking about the JFK Oswald saga, where everybody, a lot of people still subscribe to the government's theory of Oswald being the lone wolf. But what just happened here makes it to where, if true, and it's being said that it is true by a representative of our government, Representative Anna Luna, actually said that NBC is in possession of a videotape that shows the assassination of JFK, but with one caveat. It shows Oswald near JFK's limo at the time of assassination, James. That means he could not have possibly have been the shooter. So I'm going to play this real quick, James, and I want to get your opinion on it.
He said because of these new releases, it's conclusive that the CIA was running Oswald, running him. And he also said that he doesn't think all of the documents have been released. Is that your understanding, too?
Yeah, so we're actually in the process of tracking down two specific documents. And also, too, Jesse, I would like to actually tell the American people, it was made aware to me this evening that NBC actually has a video that's never been seen before. We're actually going to be sending a letter requesting that from NBC because it allegedly shows Oswald near the vehicle when the assassination took place, which means that he couldn't have been the shooter. So, again, we're tracking down all this information. But look, there's even a CIA document that came out that Mr. Morley pointed out that actually said that the CIA never bought the lone gunman theory.
And that tells you right there that not only did the CIA, they knew it wasn't a lone gunman theory. That's just BS, But what is your reaction to an actual possible videotape showing Oswald near the limousine at the time of assassination, and the fact that this tape has been hidden for 70 plus years, and most likely other tapes have either been hidden or cut him out of the video, James?
Well, it's freaking awesome if it's true. And Anna Paulina Luna is in charge. I don't know what her particular title is, but she was named as the congressional liaison for all of these classified releases. And she, if anybody, should know what she's talking about. Look, you and I never bought the Oswald lone shooter anyway, but this would conclusively put it to bed. And the fact that there might be documents out there that haven't been released doesn't surprise me at all. What do you think?
No, I completely agree. They even said that a third of the documents that were supposed to be released weren't. And the only reason to not release documents is because they show incriminating evidence. That's the only reason. And you've got to think, if Oswald was next to the limousine, or at least in the vicinity of the limousine at the time of assassination, and first, before I say that, I'd like to say I don't see how any common sense, even a person with an average IQ could see that Oswald killed him in the first place. They say he's in the book depository building, which means he would have been behind JFK. He would have had to shot JFK in the head from behind. When JFK's head was shot, it was blown backwards, and the skull came right to the back of the limousine. There is no way that he could have been shot from the back, for one. But two, if he's in the vicinity of this, that's got to tell you, you know how many people, even back in the 60s, James, do you know how many people were recording that? How many videos show everybody in the crowd, and, the Zapruder film shows the limo the entire time? That tells you that either videos have been suppressed or Oswald has been cut out of these videos. Because if this video, uncut and correct, shows the real version, that shows you that the conspiracy goes a lot farther and a lot deeper than even the CIA, James.
Yeah, it does. It's a mess. There's just stuff going on, and we're going to get into it about releasing documents, because I am just not happy at all with the pace at which Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Tulsi Gabbard have released stuff, and we'll get into specifics. I don't know if you saw this on a corollary note. There is a tape that alleged that LBJ ordered the JFK assassination, and Glenn Beck says it appears to be real. And he invited the tape's owner to confirm the digital recording that he gave to Alex Jones back in January. And he played this chilling confession from the original source. I mean, there is stuff coming out finally. I don't know how this guy, it's a Shane Stevens, Texas, got this tape, but it's possible that LBJ may be, personally responsible, at least one of the many parties responsible. It's just all kinds of crazy stuff going on with this, man.
It really is, and I do happen to think that LBJ, he's one of the main people responsible. He's also the body that connects all the octopus legs. He is the body in this particular conspiracy. If you ever read Roger Stone's book, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ, it lays out actual facts, evidence, and everything. LBJ was a horrible man. I mean, a despicable human being. And it is no doubt in my mind that he played the connector of all these. See, these different entities that wanted Kennedy dead, they didn't talk to one another, but they all talked to LBJ. So he was the connector of everything. And he was the one that stand to gain the most. He was going to be the leader of the free world. So that's why every one of these entities knew they could go to LBJ, propose this thing, and they knew, first of all, they knew how dirty and despicable he was. Second, they knew that power wants more power. So if they go to him and say, hey, I want to kill LBJ because, he's taken away our gambling, or I want to kill Kennedy because he's taken away our gambling, or I want to kill Kennedy because he's going after the mafia, or this or that. Each one of those people could go to him and they know he would at least entertain it. So he was definitely the linchpin in the entire conspiracy. And the craziest part about everything is just how long this conspiracy has been going on, because you got to know, everybody in this conspiracy has got to be dead by now. Okay, so at this point, you've got, even though these people are dead, the government themselves still do not want to release everything they have because they think it embarrasses the government. But if you want the truth, the unknown is always worse than the known. The devil you know is always better than the devil you don't know, James.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And by the way, the person on this tape was a guy named Clifton Carter. He was the executive director of the DNC, very close to LBJ. And he admitted that LBJ hired Mac Wallace, who was a known criminal conspirator that I believe was tried for murder in another case, and that LBJ was implicated in that. There was the famous meeting the night before the assassination at a major oil fund person's house in Dallas, and LBJ was there. We talked about it last week. George Bush was there. Richard Nixon was there. That's why I kind of hesitate a little bit on some of Roger Stone's stuff, because I think Nixon was implicated in it as well. But, that's probably not that important. What do you think?
I mean, you're absolutely right. And this all goes back, because to me, when this happened, this is where the shadow government, or this is where they basically decided to form the shadow government. They realized how strong they could be. If you can kill a president and get away with it to where nobody questions the official narrative, or nobody with any real power anyway, if you can get the commission to say, yeah, it was a lone wolf, even though there's all evidence that points to the contrary, then you can run a parallel government. And let me tell you what's going on in our country today. We talked last week about how the government is running parallel to our own. It's a shadow communistic government. We talked about how they are slowly trying to replace our government with theirs. Well, get this. They are not only doing that, but they are at the point now where they're trying to introduce the thought of the shadow government to your mind as a good thing. Right now, last night, Tim Walz said this. I want you to take a listen.
We see one of the first things they do is try and restrict the vote. This is one of the things, though, that this is going to take power to the streets. I don't know what the answer is on this, but I've been saying this. I think we need a shadow government, so when all these things come up every single day, we've got an alternate press conference telling the truth about what things are happening, telling what's going out.
He is floating the idea of a shadow government being a good thing, James. Why? Because they need, first of all, they were going to replace it slowly over decades, which they have done, but they're starting to get impatient because they see movements like MAGA starting to creep up and put a crimp in their plans. So they need to replace the government faster. How? By giving you the idea that a shadow government that runs parallel to Trump's could save your life from the horrible Nazis, James.
Yeah, Tim Walz, what a clown. We're going to get into today's Conspiracy Corner, Jack. I'm going to get into the history of the shadow governments. We'll leave that for a little bit later. You know, one of the aspects we spoke about last week was the role of Israel. Now, LBJ actually had helped smuggle Jews into Texas. The CIA, in a limited hangout, they don't tell you that the most mentioned name in a lot of these documents was Mossad. And did you know that Jack Ruby, his real full name was Jacob Rubenstein? He's a Jew. He was part of the Jewish mob. Now, I am not one of those people that blame everything on the Zionists. Like we've discussed many times, there were several converging factors in this, but the ties to Israel can't be denied. And actually, these documents were the first time that it was openly admitted that JFK wanted to register AIPAC as a foreign agent, and he wanted to shut down Israel's nuclear proliferation. And I mean, that right there is enough for the Mossad to want to take action, Jack.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. So, you know, that's why I think both of these subjects go hand in hand. You've got JFK, who was assassinated, and that was basically the beginning of the shadow government as we know it today, and their slow takeover of the American constitutional republic government. But now they are so worried now that their agenda can get completely thrown off track that they are trying to sell you on the idea that the shadow government is a good thing. Hey, you know, we're gonna, you know, you depend on us, you listen to us, we're gonna take care of you. Trump and them, the people that are fighting for your freedom and making sure your money isn't stolen, they are actually doing the opposite. We are the ones that want to save you by tearing up your Constitution. That way we can go after the bad guys with impunity, James. That's their messaging here.
It's insane. I mean, it truly is insane. As I watch events unfold, you know, particularly with like the Tessa vandalism, and I see these people, there is a segment of the population, Jack, that has been hopelessly indoctrinated and brainwashed. I mean, you look at all the good things, say, Elon Musk is doing, and they're attacking him. I mean, he just saved 2 astronauts. He makes the world's best electric car that's fighting climate change. I mean, it's just on and on. I don't understand these people, Jack. I'm trying to, but it's such a case of cognitive dissonance. I just think they're beyond hope. I mean, I watch these videos, I'm like, what hope is there for a blue-haired guy with a nose ring who smears his own feces on a Tesla? I mean, you know, it's hopeless, bro.
That was insane. You're absolutely right. And it is hopeless for a lot of them out there. But I will say that the reason that you and I do this show is not just for the people that either know these things or want to listen, but it's also in the hopes that other people that are on the fence, or even younger people that have not yet been corrupted by liberal or conservatives either way, listen and get, you know, the truth told to them. So I will say that there has been some really good news lately. And it was just yesterday, the U.S. State Department notified Congress that they are officially shutting down USAID. So it is over for USAID. And what does this mean? It means that it's over for the DEI policies. And let me tell you some of the things that's gone on recently about this. Okay, so yesterday, Utah became the first state to ban LGBT pride flags and other political flags from being flown at state buildings. Yesterday, failed vice presidential candidate Tim Walz suggested Democrats lost big in 2024 because they were not bold enough in advocating for progressive policies like DEI, which is insane to me because that's what lost everything. But this is the thing that I find most encouraging because it's at least getting out there right here, James. There's a news report out that some pilots are afraid to take a bathroom break for fear that their unqualified co-pilot might crash the plane due to DEI hiring eroding safety standards, James. So DEI is on its back like a turtle right now, and with the government shutting down USAID, it's about time to tie it to the old oak tree. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, man. No, it's a very, you raise a very serious and important point. How much damage has DEI already done to our country, particularly in the infrastructure that matters, like the FAA and pilots and emergency responders, doctors? I mean, medical schools have lowered their standards significantly. You know, I mean, we know that it's taken root in entertainment and professional sports and other avenues. But when it comes to infrastructure and safety, I mean, it's just so damaging. And the fact that, you know, I really do feel like we're at that Trump was elected in the nick of time and that he has a chance of saving us, Jack. But if this stuff went on, did you see the tweet by Elon about Disney and the documents that were uncovered about DEI?
Yeah. I mean, there's been, and James, you know what kills me about this whole, how people always say, oh, well, this could never happen in America. This is the 21st century, Nazism could never happen, yada, yada, yada. Well, we have a constitution and a civil rights act, yet people are willingly embracing racist ideology such as DEI, because as long as it's against white people, it's okay. If you've noticed, every country in the world that has all these migrants coming to them and people are saying you're racist if you don't embrace them, only white majority countries. They don't do DEI. Oh, if you're white people and you start sending white migrants to Africa, they'll genocide your ass. That's what they're doing in South Africa right now. But in America or in any other white country, if you don't willingly accept people intruding into your own private space, you are racist. But, any other country, I could go to, India, and start sending people over there. We would be racist for invading their country, but they would not be racist for invading ours, James.
No, I know the double standard is just so frustrating, and it's everywhere. I'll give you an example I noticed on TV. Well, one thing, you can turn on any network program, and the commercials are 75 to 80% black people. Now, I love black people. I have many black friends, which I know is the adage, but I do.
Sound like George Costanza.
Yeah, but I know exactly. But they represent 13% of the population. Why do they represent 75% of the people on a commercial? Exactly. But here's one I noticed yesterday. It's March Madness. I love basketball. I've been watching the tournament. And the main group on CBS, the sportscasters covering it, there's 3 men and there's a black woman. I think that's great. So I flipped over to the NCAA women's division. Guess what? It's 4 women. Where's the equal representation? And these documents that Elon Musk uncovered, somebody sent them to him. It's a spreadsheet from Disney HR saying that 50% of all hires must be, sorry, I'm pounding on the table, must be people of color or people that are not typically represented. Jack, this is a direct violation of the Civil Rights Act, and I think there's going to be legal action. I've been asking forever, where the hell is the EEOC, the Equal Opportunity Employment Commission, on this whole issue? I mean, I've been discriminated against as an older white guy. I mean, I applied for a job a few years ago. The first thing they asked me, well, how old are you? They can't do that, and I get it. I mean, I totally get it. I wasn't offended, but this is blatant disregard for the law, and hopefully this new administration, will do something. But Jack, I don't know if you want to segue into this. I'm really disappointed in what I'm seeing from Tulsi, from Cash, and from Pam. I don't know if you saw on X, they just released Cash Patel and Dan Bongino were crowing about the fact that they released some documents due to the 8-year-old shooting. Remember Steve Scalise, the congressman, when he got shot, and Congress had been asking for documents. Well, they just released them, and I thought, well, that's great. But there's about 10 other things, Jack, that I'd like to know. I'd like to immediately know who was the SCOTUS leaker in the Roe case. Whose cocaine was it in the White House? You know that Dan Bongino spent hours on his show talking about, look, they know whose cocaine it was. They've got, I have a high placed source within the administration who said they recovered DNA from the bag of cocaine. They know whose it is. What about OKC bombing? What about the Vegas shooting? What about 9/11? Where are the videotapes from the Pentagon? I mean, it's on and on. They give us this little tip. What about Epstein, Jack? Did we just forget about this? Remember the fiasco 3 weeks ago with Pam Bondi and the Epstein tapes? I mean, I said to you 3 weeks ago, if Pam Bondi doesn't come up with something in a week or so, I'm going to be really PO'd, and I'm beyond pissed. I just don't think they're doing enough fast enough. What are your thoughts?
Well, and I'm going to say something, and I want everybody to really listen to this, because this is the thing that I think is the most important. Okay, it's starting to really make me wonder about this whole thing. And we've talked about before how, the Trump admin, and like I said, I voted for Trump. You and I support Trump, but it's starting to look like maybe we are getting to the point where it's all a show, where it's all the, hey, let's give them what they want, in the Trump admin, and this make them think that they're gaining some ground, but in reality, we don't give them anything real. Okay, so let's, all of these different violations of civil rights, the federal government can arrest people for violating people's civil rights. They did it to the cops that beat Rodney King. They were found not guilty of attempted murder, but then the federal government arrested them. They were found guilty of violating his civil rights, got 4 years in prison. You can arrest people for violating civil rights. The federal government, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, even Dan Bongino has done nothing about any of these civil rights violations against white people. I guarantee you, though, if it happened to a black person on national television, they'd be arrested that white person would have been arrested the next day. However, they also aren't releasing any of the real documents you wanted. Like you said, where's the Epstein documents? They released, all the shit that we already had, even redacted some stuff that was previously unredacted. Okay? Right. You're talking about a truckload of Epstein documents that we've not heard of since. We've not heard of a single thing. Documents, no evidence, nothing. There has been no arrests of anybody that did any of the horrible things to Trump supporters in the last 4 years. Oh, they arrested one MS-13 gang leader, and they're doing backflips. That man was replaced 5 minutes after he was arrested. You're not helping anybody here. All you're doing is throwing shiny objects at people. Hey, look at this for the next 5 months while we do nothing. And it concerns me, because this is not what we voted for. Okay? They said, oh yeah, we're going to do these mass deportations. They probably deported 100,000 people max. There are 20 million and more. They might deport, 500,000 in a year. Okay? So after these 4 years, they've deported 2 million of the 20 million.
Well, what about the leaders of these sanctuary states and cities, Jack? That's a direct violation of the law.
They're not prosecuting them either.
Exactly.
They're not prosecuting anybody. They're not sending any messages. Any of the things that you wanted, they are not doing. And really, even if they were found not guilty, all they have to do is prosecute a few individuals and it will stop. But they won't do it. And you got to ask yourself why. You can't keep saying, oh, it's only been a few months. Oh, no. It's been 4 years. They've had 4 years to witness all this shit, to gather all this evidence. And then as soon as you're in there, you start arresting these MFers. But no, nothing. Okay? In 2 to 3 months now, we have had no substantial gains on any kind of justice for us, for anybody. And it's wearing thin. And honestly, it sucks, because as a U.S. citizen, as a person who was born in the United States, I'm powerless. We have nothing we can do to check these people. Even the people that are supposedly on our side, we can't stop them. Neither side will help stop the other, so they can both operate with impunity, which means they can both do nothing with impunity, James.
No, I know, man, and I share your frustration. I appreciate your passion. It is so damn frustrating. I mean, like you said, we feel powerless. I mean, at least you and I, Jack, we have the show. I mean, it's a little something. It's
True.
not much, but at least it's something. You know, everyone else can just, if they don't have a podcast show, they can tweet. That's all I've done. I did tweet, to Dan Bongino. It said, these documents have been stonewalled for 8 years. Not anymore. When we said it's a new era at the FBI, we meant it. And I immediately said, okay, what about the SCOTUS leaker? What about the White House cocaine? What about the Vegas shooting? What about the OKC bombing? The Boston bombing, which was another false flag.
Whatever happened to the gay sex tape video in the Congress floor?
What about the freaking videotapes from January 6th that they promised to release all of them? Speaker Johnson has them. They still haven't released that, Jack. What about the 1,000 hours of videotape that supposedly shows a plane crashing into the Pentagon that was all confiscated by, guess who? The FBI. Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, I'm talking to you, Pam Bondi.
And
Where
James,
are those tapes?
You're right. And James, the thing is, they've had all this time to do so many different things about all this stuff, but they haven't done anything. And even when it looks like they're going to do something, they always make sure to give you just a little bit, just enough to, say, oh, maybe they are working on something. And, we can tweet and there's just no real power. We have got to be able to do something because the people that are on our side apparently aren't even on our side. And that's what's so frustrating about being a conservative. Okay, so get this. Elon Musk and people like Scott Pressler, who he follows me on X, so I'm hoping he's listening to this. You guys want conservatives to go out and vote in droves for, Brad Schimmel for Wisconsin Supreme Court. You want everybody to be motivated to go out there and vote. Well, the thing is, the Democrats might be motivated because they're motivated by hate and anger. We're motivated by wanting justice, but we don't get justice. So why would that motivate us anymore? You want to win elections? You tell your leaders to get us justice. You get some justice, we see that it's actually a possibility, then we'll vote. I guarantee you Brad Schimmel does not win Wisconsin Supreme Court seat. I guarantee you that person that is running in Florida right now in the special election, they will not win. And I will tell you why they're not going to win, because even though Democrats are smaller in number, they are motivated by hate and anger. We are motivated by justice, which we get none of.
Boy, spot on, my brother. Spot on. I mean, and the two-tiered justice system is what drove us nuts the last 8 years. The first 4 years of Trump with the 2 impeachments, and then the 4 years following were even worse with the 96 indictments, et cetera, et cetera. And Jack, we're not asking for retribution. We're asking for what you just said, justice. We're not saying commit political lawfare upon our opponents. All we're saying is hold people to the standard, which is if you break the law, then you're going to pay for it. And most of this, Jack, I'm just asking for information. I don't need a frickin' investigation into the 9/11 Pentagon attack. I just want to see the videotape. We, the citizen journalist, will investigate it. Give us the information. I'm not asking even that the SCOTUS leaker be arrested, but we should know who it is, right? Know that. They know that. How long would it take Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, Tulsi Gabbard, or real Donald Trump to release the name of the person who leaked the SCOTUS Supreme Court decision? I mean, it may seem like a minor thing, but it's indicative of this whole, you started out talking about the deep state. It is the deep state. Now, I think it's their influence that's keeping this stuff under wrap. And it just pisses me off to no end, as I know you feel the same.
Yeah, and that's what worries me. Is it their influence? Is it their influence, or is it all a political show? I mean, maybe it is their influence, or maybe it's the fact that these people were never really on our side in the first place. What I will say is that Elon Musk and Doge and everybody else keep coming out with things that they're saving us money, right? The problem is it does not matter. Because without accountability, without arrests for this fraud, oh, there's tons of fraud and abuse and yada, yada. There's no arrests. Without any kind of arrest or prosecution, honestly, I don't even give a damn if every single person you arrest is found not guilty. If you arrest them, it sends a message, but you won't. So all the money you save, first of all, I don't even have any proof that you've saved this money. I don't have any real proof. You can put numbers on a website all you want. You want to prove it? Send us, send people some money. I don't give a damn. You got to find an actual way to prove that you've done this. Second, there's got to be accountability. Otherwise, it won't matter because it'll just continue to happen. As soon as Trump is out in 4 years, USAID, right back up. Okay? IRS, right back up. Department of Education, right back up. Money laundering funneled through all these institutions, right back up. Because A, not only are you not prosecuting or holding anybody accountable, but B, Congress, who is controlled by conservatives, is not codifying any of this. Every single executive order will be overturned on day one.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, man. And your point about Scott Pressler and Schimmel in Wisconsin, the Supreme Court candidate, was really salient. That really hit home with me, Jack. Well done. We're the number one issue. Now, the reason you never hear this in a poll, you do hear, immigration, the economy, and then for the Democrats, you hear about threat to democracy. But if they asked the American people, is the two-tiered justice system a concern of yours? I think it would be the number one issue. We've been screaming about this for years. My girlfriend and I talk about it all the time. It's so frustrating. Now we look at these judges and we're ripping on our own side here. We haven't even got to the other side. It's so horrible. And the ties they've just found about this judge, and maybe we should talk about that a little bit. This Bonacero, whatever the hell his name is. What is his name, Jack? It's
talking about Boasberg?
Yeah, Boasberg. Thank you. I couldn't remember. So Boasberg, did you know that he's the same judge that, first of all, gave Kleinsmith, the FBI agent who changed an email to suit their needs, he gave him probation. He's the one that allowed Ray Epps to walk. I didn't know
I believe
that.
he was also on the FISA court that allowed
Yes.
for the warrantless spying on President Trump.
Yep. No, exactly right. So this guy,
Now he's doing Signalgate.
What do you think? Yes. What do you think the Trump administration should do about these district judges? I mean, do you think they should just ignore it? What are your thoughts on that?
I can tell you exactly what they can do. One thing is, you're never going to get an impeachment and a conviction or a removal just because, even though conservatives control the court, conservatives, at least the politician conservatives, never do anything that matters. So, I'm a conservative and I'm all for conservatives, and I have to vote conservative because it's better than the alternative. Because at least, even though the conservatives don't do anything that matters, at least they don't actively prosecute us for our race and religion and political beliefs. So that's the only reason that they get my vote. But Trump, now he got my vote because, he does do a lot of good. So what I think he could do here, strip the funding. You can strip their funding with an executive order. These are federal judges, district courts. They rely on federal funding. You can strip the funding of these federal courts, get rid of the entire district if you want to. Without funding, they're going to get rid of these judges. They're going to get rid of these other people. And you say, all right, just like what's his face said, who was it? Biden said, all right, you're not getting the $1 billion unless you fire this prosecutor. All right, you're not getting any more federal government money unless you get rid of this freaking judge. That's the way it is. And he's allowed to do that. It is federal funding for these judges. And I'd be like, all right, well, tell you what, we are going to remove the exact amount of federal funding that is this judge's salary.
Yeah, that's a great idea, but they won't do it. I
wonder if he could do it by executive order, though.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Congress is in charge of the purse. They're the ones that allocate money, but the president does have some discretion as to how the money is spent and in what fashion and what timely manner it's spent. The president does have pretty broad authority.
You just gave me a great idea. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you just gave me a great
No.
idea, James. Let's say
What?
he doesn't have the ability to cut funding on his own, right? He doesn't have the ability to cut the funding because they do allocate the money. But let's say he has the ability to determine where that funding goes. Let's say he moves it from this court over to that court. He's not getting rid of any of the funding. It's just this court is now getting all of that funding. They are the ones that, Congress is the ones that release the money. He's the one that determine where it goes, where it is spent. Okay? So, instead of, getting rid of the money, which maybe he can't do by executive order, maybe he can move it around a little, James.
Well, I think what they want to do, and I mean, I don't totally disagree with this strategy. What I think they're saying is, look, we want to get this to SCOTUS. As a matter of fact, the Trump administration just moved to bypass a judicial review by a 3-judge panel and said, nope, we don't even want to do that. We want to go straight to SCOTUS. I think they want a ruling from SCOTUS that puts the kibosh on all these district judges interfering in the executive's position, because it is totally unconstitutional. They know it, but these people, they're activists. They'll throw gasoline on anything and just hope it burns.
And you're absolutely right. And that's why it's kind of shocking to me so far that SCOTUS has not taken up these rulings yet. They should be hearing them immediately. These are emergency petitions. Not only that, James, but these cases all need to be consolidated. Okay. I know that they're each individual things, but what it comes down to is a lower court's ability to block a presidential executive order. That's what all these come down to. So consolidate them, put them into one case, and do the Trump administration versus the district courts, and end once and for all whether or not they have the ability to interfere. Because I can tell you, they shouldn't have the ability. That should be up to the Supreme Court. They are the law of the land. If the Supreme Court says, okay, you can't do this, then yeah, you can't do it. But a district court judge from Washington, D.C. should not, just because he's a federal judge, be able to make a ruling that puts a nationwide injunction on every other state. Okay? Because first of all, when you got the judicial and the legislative branch, the judicial and the executive branch, there is supposed to be a separation of powers. Okay?
Yeah.
Nobody elected these federal judges. They are appointed. So if these federal judges say, okay, I'm going to take over. Now, I may not be able to say what you can do, but I can certainly say what you can't do. So this is what you cannot do. And if they say that, they are not separating powers. They are de facto, they are vicariously legislating, James.
No, you're right. And the way the Constitution reads, the Supreme Court rules on it's the final decision. If Congress wants to, then they can pass legislation. They create the laws that overturns or contradicts the Supreme Court ruling. That's how it's supposed to go. These district courts were never intended under the original founders' documents to have this kind of power. The president is given very broad powers for a specific reason, Jack. He's the only person in the whole of government that's elected by all of the citizens. The presidential race is the only race that everybody gets to vote for. And he was intentionally given a lot of power. Now, I would argue that the executive branch over the last 60, 75 years has really taken on too much power, and that their pants are way too big, and we need to cut that power, and you're absolutely right, because these executive orders will be struck down when the next Democrat administration comes in. But switch gears a little bit. Hopefully, we don't have a next Democrat administration. Did you see the tweets and posts by Donald Trump about the 2020 election documents? Did you happen to read any of that?
No, I don't believe so. What's going on?
Yeah, so President Trump basically said that, as we know, right, that the 2020 election was stolen. But he recently said, President Trump says that Crossfire Hurricane documents will reveal that he won the 2020 election. The document, this is Trump quoting, the documents are there. The numbers are there. We won by a lot, and we will be releasing these documents. So apparently, here's another thing. We just bitched about them not releasing all these other things. The the FBI, of course they know. And I shouldn't just say the FBI because, go back to Sidney Powell, who was painted as a lunatic. I think she was spot on. She talked about the Kraken, and I've done a deep dive into that. There is a military intelligence that was coordinating with CISA in the 2020 election. And the Kraken was actually what the Army Intelligence Corps called these networks that they had developed. So, I mean, she was spot on. There was all kinds of chicanery and shenanigans, and it wasn't by just lowlifes dumping ballots in Georgia. It was a coordinated effort that involved some of the highest intelligence officials in the country.
Yeah, it's amazing what's going on, and they should have released these documents already. And you know what also boggles my mind? Ann Vandersteel recently put out a tweet that says, we all said the 2020 election was stolen. Okay, now we have at our disposal the FBI, the DOJ, the FEC, CISA, ODNI, and the USPIS. So, Pam, when do the investigations begin? And that's right there. Where are the investigations for the 2020 stolen election? Where are the investigations for who knew what about Joe Biden's mental incapacity? Where are the investigations into the auto pen? Where are investigations into who actually ran the country for the last 4 years? Not only are none of these investigations going on, James, but when they do you have any confidence that anything will actually be done?
No, I really don't, because like you've said and I've said, we haven't seen a single arrest other than, they've gotten some of the top 10 guys. They've gotten some of these bad hombres in immigration. I applaud them for that. That's great because they were just skating before. But you know what? It's the political chicanery that we want stopped. It's the people that use political lawfare to bring the wheels of justice to a grinding halt in this country. And those gears are still stuck. And we need somebody to spray some damn WD-40 and get it moving again. And you're right, some arrests, even if it's just, perfunctory arrests that would lead to an example that, hey, you mess around with an election, you're going to jail. I mean, what the hell about remember the fat woman in Georgia that was feeding ballots in after they supposedly closed due to a leak? She's still out. Why isn't she in jail? I mean, it's just on and on, dude. And I know we're beating the dead horse, but man.
Yeah, but there's all the fraud, like Stacey Abrams with the $2 billion. They never arrested her. They never arrest anybody. But listen to this. If you want to arrest somebody, if you want to show people that you're serious, this is where you start, okay? You start by arresting the Rochester, New York's mayor. And let me tell you why you start by arresting Rochester, New York's mayor. Multiple Rochester, New York police officers are facing possible termination for responding to an emergency call from Border Patrol. Rochester's mayor says this violated the city's sanctuary policy. And I'm saying that if they're fired by this mayor, not only does this mayor need to be arrested for having a sanctuary city policy, which is basically harboring fugitives, but he also needs to be, removed himself, and Trump needs to make these officers federal officers, bring them in under the federal, make them part of the Border Patrol. But if you want to show you're serious, you start with the Rochester City Mayor, James.
Yeah, man, totally. I would be, Jack, wouldn't you be happy if there was just one arrest? I mean,
one would be great. One real substantial arrest.
Just one, one little perp walk, one pair of handcuffs, one orange jumpsuit, one pair of shackles. We'd be thrilled, but there hadn't been one.
And it's because of the shadow government, James. Let's go ahead and do that conspiracy corner.
Yeah, let's do. That's a good segue. So the shadow government, I'm going to try and keep this brief because I know we're a little short on time, but I did a deep dive into big oil and the Rockefellers. Now, we all know the name J.D. Rockefeller, but what we don't understand is the length to which the Rockefeller and his ensuing nonprofit organization, the Rockefeller Foundation, really transform America. And I'm just going to give you the key points. So if you don't know, the Rockefellers owned Standard Oil, and they were the richest family in America. They were equivalent to the Rothschilds in France. But so the Rockefellers weren't happy with just wealth, Jack. You got to remember, these are the same people that can print money through the Fed. Money is never their game, but they wanted to socially engineer. They were the first globalists, and they still are. It's the same people behind it. So their first little action was called eugenics. And I know you know about that. I'm sure our listeners know about it. It was the idea that society, you remember Mendel, the great scientist who used genetics with pea plants to discover that if you mix this plant with this one, you got different things. So Mendel's work had just come out there like, hey, we can get rid of the undesirables. And like the term moron or idiot, these were actual terms that they used to describe people of lesser intelligence. These people were usually put away in institutions. So eugenics, they tried to breed out of the population people they considered undesirable. And so when Hitler came to power, embraced eugenics, killed 6 million Jews, they're like, oh, shit, that's gone to hell. We can't use that anymore. So you know what they did? And this is where it gets crazy. I never knew this. Do you have any idea, and I guess you're going to guess now, who was behind the environmental movement that started in the 60s and the 70s? It was big oil. It doesn't make any sense, but it does when you look at it. So they created the environment movement to get us thinking, oh, the earth is our mother. We have to protect her. You know, we have to limit the damage to earth. They use the environmental movement. Federal governments around the world then begin to buy up huge swaths of land. They begin to use laws to restrict people. And think about how far it's gone, Jack, with the EPA. In many states, you can't even collect rainwater now, right? You can't use your pond to feed your cattle. And that was all because of big oil and the environmental movement. Carbon eugenics. This draws a connection between the eugenics movement, population control, which was one of their big things, and the modern environmental push. Foundations that supported eugenics in the early 20th century went on to support environmentalism, and now guess what it is? It's climate change. The same people who wanted to rid the population of undesirables moved from eugenics to rabid environmentalism and now to climate change. And their end goal is total control of the population. Things like the smart grid. You know, you got these smartphones. That's mass surveillance. They want to know exactly what you're doing. They want to know how much energy you use. The same effing people. And it's crazy because when I did the historical research, you can see the father passed to the son to the grandson. The same people that are the rabid climate activists now were originally the titans of oil and gas. It's insane.
You are absolutely right, and that is, that was a very interesting conspiracy corner. So I always encourage people to, make sure you go ahead and research these things for yourself. I mean, they're obviously accurate, but you still want to confirm everything, show that everything that we're telling you is the truth. So James, before we go though, I wanna do a quick little thing. So here in Western North Carolina, the hurricane almost took us out, right? So it took out a lot of places because we're on top of, lithium mines and, white quartz and all this other stuff. So the people that it didn't take out, do you know what's happening? There's two things that do not happen in Western North Carolina. Let me tell you what those two things are: hurricanes and wildfires.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So after the hurricane, so for the last 30 years that I've lived here, never a hurricane, never once. You might get a little bit of rain or something, right? So you know how we talked about how they modify the weather based on, and they're spraying all in the skies everywhere, every city you look at, okay? You think that they're doing these test plane things all in the skies everywhere you look just for the hell of it? Oh, come on now. So what's happening is these weather modification things that they do, it brought the hurricane here to destroy Asheville and surrounding areas in order to get what they want, the lithium, okay? Because it's $1 trillion industry. Now, the people that survive, the homes that survive, the things started after this. Now there are wildfires surrounding the entire county. I'm talking wildly burning wildfires, and not just this. That in and of itself is strange, James. But the most strange part is that there has been no rain in weeks and massive wind. I'm talking 25, 35, 45 mile per hour winds that spread these fires as fast as they can go. Anybody that's listening to this right now, look up Western North Carolina, look up wildfires. You will see that they are burning this state to the ground. We've been through enough. We just went through a freaking hurricane that killed hundreds, thousands, if you will, that displaced and made homeless thousands. Yet it did not give them everything they wanted. So what do? You start wildfires, and then all you got to do is make sure that it doesn't rain. Make sure the wind blows. Here in our area, the wind does not blow like this, like it has the past 6 months. The past 6 months, we're talking 30, 40 mile per hour winds every single day. You can't hang anything outside. You can't put anything outside on the porch. And not only that, but no rain. We have not had rain in weeks. These wildfires, there is a wildfire right now, 22 miles from my home. The smoke is inside our area, 22 miles away. That tells you there's evacuations everywhere. They will kill, maim, and destroy every person on this earth until they get what they want. And right now, they want Western North Carolina.
Yeah, I just read, Jack, there's been 4,813 wildfires in North Carolina this year. That's insane.
It's incredible. And in the mountains, we know we don't have them.
Right. And I know people think, oh, yeah, put on your tinfoil hat. But I mean, at some point, Jack, you look at Maui, you look at North Carolina, what you guys went through with the hurricane, and now the wildfires, you look at LA, at some point you got to go, whoa, you know, what does Steve Bannon like to say? There are no conspiracies, but there are no coincidences. But on a similar note, I just read, I'm sure you saw this, that so far in LA, they've only allowed four permits for new buildings in LA for the reconstruction.
You know, and those new permits are most likely for buildings that are going to help build their 15-minute city. So let me say that my old saying is, you know, too many coincidences equal a conspiracy. Okay, now think about this. We don't get hit by hard hurricanes. It's never happened in the 200 some odd year of the Asheville, North Carolina city and Buncombe County in general. We don't get hit by wildfires, okay? You can go back and look at all of our history. You might see some. You will never see any devastating wildfires. These people are being evacuated from their homes. Their homes are being burned down. The smoke that is encompassing the entire county, people are breathing that in and out, in and out, in and out, forcing these people. So from the hurricane, you know, it might have destroyed your home, but they couldn't force you to leave. With wildfires, they can force you to leave your home. Then once you leave your home, let's say it gets burned to the ground, then what? You know, there's no, just like there's no water, there was no flood insurance. Most of these places probably don't have fire insurance. I would like somebody to do some research, see about homeowners insurance in Western North Carolina, see if it covers fires. Then see if, other insurance companies pulled out of Western North Carolina anytime within the last few months before these fires began and during these fires. Because what I can tell you right now is the two things that never happen here have happened in back-to-back succession, and it does not happen, James. These things are not coincidences. Two things that don't happen in the 200-plus year history happen within 6 months of each other after a 2-year court battle about the lithium mine underneath our feet.
Yeah, we need to make a commitment right here and now that we're going to stay on this story. You're a native in North Carolina. I want to see a year from now what land speculation, what's happened, who's bought the land, how much did they pay for it, did they get it undervalued, which I'm sure that they will, and are they, the land that they buy, are they now mining it or have plans to mine it, Jack? We need to stay on this. Man, it's been a great show as usual, my friend. It's always fun to hang with you. It's a beautiful day here in the Ozarks. I hope you're having a good one in North Carolina. It's been Secret America. I'm James Clary. He's Jack Danger. We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Secret America with Jack Danger and James Clary.